Hello everyone, and welcome to some more Heroes and Generals. Now this is a heavily requested video by you guys. A lot of you have been asking for me to do a tips and tactics video on air combat. So I decided to do one on the aspect of the air combat that I think is the most important and the most fun in Heroes and Generals, and that is the close air support role. So I'll give you guys some tips as well as some of the tactics that I use to make my play the most effective close air support that I can. So as usual, I'm playing as the Allies, which means I'll be flying the P-38 Lightning, which I actually prefer over the BF-109 in Heroes and Generals, particularly for the close air support role. Now the biggest reason that I prefer the P-38 over the 109 is its bomb load. The 109 only gets one bomb by default, while the P-38 gets two. Now this leads me into my first tip for your loadout, and that is to use the combat badge that allows you to carry extra bombs. And as you rank this combat badge up, you'll be able to carry more and more bombs. Now this is extremely important because enemy armor is the biggest threat to your friendly ground forces. The more bombs you can take, the more tanks you can kill before you have to rearm. This will lead me into my next tip for your loadout, and that is your cannon ammo. Now if you've been playing Heroes and Generals for as long as I have, you'll remember that both the 109 and the P-38 did not used to have cannons modeled in the game. You strictly just had machine guns, and that made taking out infantry rather difficult. Well, now they've added cannons into the game. So I recommend taking strictly HE shells rather than armor-piercing shells for your cannon ammunition. Now the reason I recommend this is, I recommend using your bombs for the tanks and armored vehicles, and using your cannon ammunition to take out infantry. It's very difficult to try and snipe infantry with your machine guns. However, the splash damage caused by the HE exploding shells makes shooting infantry on the ground much easier. You can see in a lot of these clips that as I'm trying to strafe infantry on the ground, whether they're running in AA emplacements or driving in vehicles like you see here, it's very easy to take them down. So my next biggest tip is going to be ammunition management. You'll notice that when you run out of ammo, whether it's bombs, cannons, or MG, a reload counter will start. Now when that counter gets back up to 100%, it will refill all of your empty ammunition, whether it's bombs, cannon, or MG. However, it will not refill ammunition that is partially depleted. So it's really important to make sure that you've dropped all your bombs or ran through all of your cannon ammunition before that counter resets. Now I recommend that as a close air support pilot, you prioritize your targets. Armor is the biggest threat, so you need to take that out first. And generally, you'll drop all your bombs relatively quickly as you're trying to eliminate tanks. Now in between destroying armor targets, you can use your HE shells to destroy any AA emplacements, as well as any targets of opportunity like roaming infantry or light vehicles. Now once I've dropped that last bomb, my ammo reset counter will start. And it's during this time I will make sure that I use up the rest of my cannon ammunition, strafing infantry and other soft targets such as vehicles. Making sure that you use up that last bit of cannon ammunition before your ammo resets makes the most efficient use out of all of your ammunition, and keeps your plane a constant threat on the battlefield. So now you may be thinking, what do you do if the enemy has aircraft present? Well, unfortunately for Heroes and Generals, the air-to-air combat is, well, for lack of a better expression, very laughable. The awkward flight controls and flight mechanics make dogfighting an annoying experience rather than a fun one. Essentially, the first pilot to get tired of raking their mouse across their mouse pad loses. Now due to the simplified flight mechanics, standard fighter tactics don't apply. Now due to the simplified nature of the air combat, standard fighter tactics don't really work in Heroes and Generals like they do in proper flight games. This means that boom and zoom tactics and maintaining higher energy states doesn't apply to Heroes and Generals. So once somebody is on your tail, it's essentially going to turn into, as I said before, a raking your mouse across your mouse pad type of battle. The biggest way around this is to have a coordinated, at least somewhat coordinated team effort at the start, to prioritize the enemy aircraft even over enemy tanks. If you can eliminate the enemy's air force quickly from the start, this will leave the rest of the match for you and your fellow pilots to concentrate solely on providing close air support for the ground troops. Now due to the awkward nature of the flight mechanics, a lot of pilots will simply go for as many ground targets as they possibly can before they get themselves shot down. You can use this to your advantage and pounce on planes that are concentrating on ground targets and shoot them down. Now another thing you'll notice about the air-to-air combat is that planes have very strange damage modeling. They can absorb tons and tons of hits and seemingly not take any damage. The armoring on the planes seems to be modeled after the armoring on the tanks. Now I've found that the best way to take enemy aircraft down is not by depleting its health and causing it to explode, but rather using HE cannon shells and aiming for the cockpit. The splash damage for the HE shells will actually damage the player inside of the aircraft. And a lot of times you can kill him much quicker than you can actually kill the aircraft. So ultimately I think the most important role of the fighter aircraft is not engaging other enemy fighters or shooting down paratrooper planes, but it's actually close air support for the ground troops and eliminating enemy tanks. Lately I find myself more and more playing as a pilot and taking on that role of ground support. It can be a lot of fun and, more importantly, extremely helpful to your team when you do it properly. During that airfield attack, I managed to get 49 kills at the loss of only 3 aircraft, and we eventually were able to push the Germans back. Well anyways, that about does it for this tips and tactics video. Don't forget to leave a like, a comment below, subscribe to my channel for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.